All right. So you were telling me about the killer question during the interview process the other day. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is and how you use it and everything?
Yeah, so it's basically the idea of having something that you can rapidly review when you've got a lot of applicants, right? Actually tells you something meaningful because it used to be you'd look at the resume or the CV, then you'd look at their application form questions and maybe even their cover letter, and maybe that was helpful, and often it was. These days, they're all AI optimized and polished, so it's kind of all BS, right? Or you certainly can't trust it. So what we do, and what we were talking about, was add one killer question that's going to take them a few minutes to answer, either at the top of the application form, or often we'll actually do it at the end. So we warm them up with their normal questions, and then we're like, hey, just killer question. And what I mean by the killer question is, what is something for your specific role that when you read the answer, you're going to know that they really get it, right? That they really, really get it. So, if you were doing let's say you're hiring for trying to think of a good example, right? Like an SEO specialist, right?
Yes.
Ask them for their very, very specific approach to a problem that you've got, right?
Mhm.
If you're hiring for an operations manager or a head of operations, right? Just how have you solved this challenge, right? In a few sentences, tell me how have you solved this challenge, and tell me which company it was at. You want to, and it's got to be specific. It's got to be really, really specific to your role and something that when you read it, you know that they can do it. Yeah, we
Mhm.
used to do things like if I wanted someone to be doing, content writing or social media posting for me, I just say something like, "Look, give me a post for this or rewrite that." Now, those are actually quite simple with AI now, right? So, but even still be quite useful as a killer question because it's like, have they done it well? Most people won't. It's a bit like one-shotting something in AI, which effectively is what's happening if someone's using AI to fill in application forms. You know, it's going to take a couple of passes to get it right. So the killer question, and I think you've got some examples of what you used, the idea of something that you just then, when you get the applications, you go straight down to just that question and you just look at that answer. If it's good, great. Then review the rest. If it's not, it's a really fast way to disqualify without you having to have gone through pages of resumes, cover letters, just fluff that, doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah. For us, when we had that conversation and I went back to the team with it, we went back and forth. We ended up on a question that actually was less specific to the role and was more specific to kind of the mindset that we want culturally in every team member. And we were more like, we thought that it was more important to find that cultural fit and then to screen for the actual skill set, that our assumption was if you're applying, you're probably good enough at this. So we want to check for essentially proactivity first. And so that was our killer question, was kind of around that. But where we almost got lucky was when we were reviewing the applications, the question right next to the killer question was one that was much more specific to the role. So in this case, it was customer success. And between those two questions, we immediately got a very good idea of, is this person potentially the right fit? And should we look through the rest of the application? So yeah, that was really helpful when you introduced that to me, and then me introducing that team. It was a game changer for our hiring process.
Yeah, and I love doing it for value. So in a previous life, attention to detail still actually is one of our core things that we look for. And so I'll
Yes.
often ask people, I'll be like, tell me a time when your attention to detail saved the day. Right? Really specific wording, right? It isn't just when was it good? When did you catch a misspelled
Yeah.
word? No, no. When did it save the day? Because someone that's got really great attention to detail will have that example, right? Maybe it
Yes.
was, catastrophe averted. Maybe it was just a thing with a launch, right? But that
Yeah.
getting those kind of scenarios that AI is not going to do well at. And it's funny, isn't
Yeah.
it, right? We're a lot of our focus right now, yeah, we're all broad pilled and talking about AI and how to hire in the AI age. But so much of it is now about, well, we want them to use AI. Because if they're not using AI, well, we probably don't want to hire them, right? Are
Yeah.
we doing it well? And so then it's about saying, well, how do we remove all of the fluff? Because hiring's hard, it takes ages. You don't want to review 200 applications. And actually, the number of applications you get if you're posting your own jobs anywhere is massively more now than it was a few years ago because it's so much easier to apply. And that's why the killer question as one thing is super important to help you distill down rather than, the 37 secretaries type scenario.
Yes.
Go through the first 37, you choose a few that are good enough and you go forward instead of actually getting the best people that you really need.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, with that 37 like higher scenario, that's if you're able to screen people one time and then not be able to go back to them. So it's a quite different situation. One of the other questions that I think me and my team had landed on separately, but then I know that you and I had talked about it when we were discussing this previously, is asking every candidate, how have you used AI essentially to help you with this job application? Can you share a bit more about that?
It's super interesting. Like a few years ago, we were discouraging the use of AI in applications, right? It's not the case today. It's not actually what we want. So yeah, asking people whether in an application form or actually I like doing it on an interview, just talk me through, how have you used AI to help you in this job application process? And you're not trying to catch them out, right? You're genuinely interested in what have they done. And we're getting some really interesting things, right? If they just say, well, I use ChatGPT to optimize my resume, fine, right? It's bit 2024, right? This is a spectrum, right? From people that are just using ChatGPT, and there's plenty of those, and plenty of people not even doing that. And then there's the people that are like fully agentic, they've got multiple Claude code windows going on, they're building real workflows, things like that. There's a real spectrum. But you want to just see how have they thought about it. So for instance, I would really like it. I want them to have done some research on me as an interviewer, right? So everybody should do that, but lots of people are lazy and don't do it or didn't used to do it. Now it's really easy, right? Just go, hey, I'm about to do an interview with Amar from ZenMaid. Search the internet, go find me some interesting things about him. What should I be aware of when going into an interview with him, right? So asking the candidates, what have they done? Have they really done deep dive research on you as a company and everything you've posted socially, right? Have they used it to find gaps in the job role that actually are concerning for them, that they really want clarity on because, maybe you've used ChatGPT and just made a few tweaks on the job post, right? So it's how them talking you through how they've used AI is a pretty good indication of where are they at with their AI fluency, right?
Yes.
Are they using multiple tools? Did they, you could ask them as a follow-up, you'd be like, right, what did it get wrong that you threw away or had to redo? Right.
Great question.
These kinds of things. So you're then getting, right, did they throw away or did they just trust it? Right. What did they challenge? What formats did they use? Did they get it to create a nice, simple HTML page, something you and I are big fans of, to make it easier for them to digest and read it? Did they create a podcast with Notebook LM? Right. What are they doing and how are they using it? And so, just simply saying, how have you used AI to help and support your application? It provokes a great conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I want to emphasize there is that it's not necessarily screening for the person that's the most advanced at AI. Generally, you have the core job, the core skill set that you're actually hiring for, and we want people to be empowered by AI. But particularly if you have a good organization that's good with AI, it's really thinking about where is the person going to go once they're in your organization. So we will be making offers. We just made 2 offers recently, and the candidates are not necessarily the most AI fluent, but we've seen the eagerness to learn and the ability like that within kind of their current exposure to AI, they're using it quite intelligently. And it's like, okay, we're going to expand your exposure. Right. We're gonna get a lot of mileage out of just like blowing your mind with AI. But sometimes it's considering that, right? But there's also things that if they're doing stuff that's agentic and everything, maybe you make the offer.
Yeah, right. It is kind of like, and it can be cool, but you're right. You don't need, if you're hiring for customer success, you don't need an Anthropic employee level AI ninja, right? That's not what you need. They wouldn't want to do the customer success job. I'm looking for curiosity, right? I'm looking for some curiosity that they've played around a little bit, or even if they've just watched the YouTube videos around it, and ideally something around judgment. So even if they're like, you know what, a couple of years ago, I learned how to prompt really well. I learned some of the prompting frameworks. And actually, I've learned recently that you no longer need to tell any of the LLMs, act as an expert marketing consultant. You don't need to do that anymore, right? So if you can see signs of like awareness, like that they're staying up to date a little bit enough, right, to
Yeah.
show you that that curiosity judgment's there, them actually becoming AI fluent, for your business or my business is then part of them. But then we've got to create the culture. We've got to give the time. We've got to give
Yeah.
access to the tool, right? And kind of create the conditions for them to use it really well, within their role so that we get that benefit and they do too. So I agree. I think I'd much rather have someone that's like on the journey and really interested in it and is curious and is open to learning than someone who already thinks they're an expert. And actually, if somebody is, I don't know, fully agentic and doing all these things, are they actually happy to think, right? Are they actually happy to do it manually anymore, right?
Yes.
Because I saw a really, really funny meme the other day that was like, what working with agents and workflows is like right now, right? And it's like, you have a slinky going down the stairs that every 2 steps, you need to give it a nudge. And it manages
Yes.
another 2 steps and you need to give it another nudge. And it's like, that's a lot what it's like. Don't get me wrong, there's some wicked stuff we can do right now. Definitely not perfect, right? It falls over and it needs intervention and, some humanness.
Yeah, definitely. So for you at JobRack, has anything else changed, or have you made any recommendations to like your clients in terms of like the hiring process just with AI? Yeah.
Yeah, I think getting clear up front has always been the most important thing, right? We call everything we do starts with hiring clarity. You and I have talked about it a lot. That's got more important, right? Because otherwise it's really easy to be like, well, I need them to be AI fluent, right? Or I need them to have AI skills. What does that mean, right? We're talking a lot about outcomes, right? What do you actually want them to do and deliver in the first 90 days or 180 days, 6 months, right? So that's super important. Figuring out if they can genuinely do it, right? And can they do it? And have they got that judgment? So the way that we test is shifting continuously. It's really hard to test for AI skills, right? And so we're looking into that a lot. There's various different ways that we do it, but testing is more important than ever. And live testing. So either where we get them to record their screen while doing something, right? You and I both used a really, really great like AI test. And so, I was hiring for a marketing person and I set them basically an impossible task, right? I gave them a scenario and I said, I want you to build me a full funnel, right? Including the resource that we're going to sell, the PDF resource we're going to sell for $49. I want you to build me out the landing page, the thank you page, the email sequence, and the ads. I want you to do it in 10 minutes, right? Record your screen, go. Now, it's not possible, certainly not to do it well, but you can get quite far, right? And most candidates, what they did is they'd thought about it in advance, they'd pre-prepared some prompts, and they'd considered the tools they were going to use. Then they had 6 or 8 browser tabs open using various different tools in parallel doing these things. So you could see how they think. You could see, did they use multiple tools or did they just go to one? So I'm a big fan of the live recorded screen as a test. And then the other one is getting them to show you stuff during an interview, right? So we use a lot of role play with some of our people focused roles. More and more, we say as part of the interview, we are going to get you to share your screen and just take us through how you would do a scenario. So we'd give them a scenario and say, hey, how would you, do this in your AI tool of choice? Just show me your Claude code setup. How are you using these tools? So that is new, right? That's not what we typically did a year ago. And then the third bit is probably, there's a few things we have to do. Are they really who they say they are, right?
Yes.
So we are genuinely we've seen people use tools like Cluely, which is prompting them in real time with the perfect answers to the questions that you're asking, right? And it's scrolling down the edge of their screen and there's normally a little bit of a lag before they answer. You see them looking off the screen a little bit. They're not looking at you quite so much. And if they're wearing glasses, and this actually happened, one of the JobRack recruitment team spotted the reflection in their glasses, right? Something was a bit off. It was like everything was a bit too polished, but they weren't sure what was going on. And then they could see that it was scrolling. They were like, and then we clocked what they were doing. And then more recently, so, I've got a virtual background today. Yeah. What you're now getting is virtual avatars, virtual faces, right? And so one of the kind of potential things that is you get them to put their hand in front of their face, right? See, this is really me. If it wasn't really me, right, then it would glitch, right? In the same way that if someone walks behind me, it's going to glitch the background. Again, there's things you now need to do. We do ID checks. So, and it's really simple, right? Just get someone to hold their passport up in their hand, close enough to the camera that you can see it's their photo and their name, right? So
Yeah.
just, it's pretty easy, but doing these things to make sure they actually are who they say they are, because there's people in the world that are, they want to appear like, a Westerner from San Francisco, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Accent changing, face changing, all of this is now real and happening.
That's crazy. It's unbelievable. Oh, what is the world of the world? So yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of what I wanted to like ask you about quickly and everything. I mean, this is kind of like based on a doc that you sent to me. Is this live yet? Can I share about like yeah. So Noel's written a guide on how to hire in the AI age. And so it talks through a couple of like these things that we've just been talking about. And like, yeah, you send me like a copy and it's good. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we've been talking about and like really helped us with our recent like hiring process. Like, yeah, it gave us a lot of confidence.
Yeah, we can chuck the link below, I guess, where we share this. But yeah, it's a JobRack, and that'll take you right to it.
Yeah, good. I'll share that. So yeah,
Cool.
good.
Cool, man.